Welcome back to Classic Courtroom, everyone, for another Courtroom Conversations. Today we're diving into a story that's been generating a lot of buzz, the world premiere of the film Rust.
Yeah, this Western film is definitely in the spotlight, and not just for the usual Hollywood reasons.
Right, the tragic on-set shooting of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins back in 2021
Yeah.
is really what's put this film on everyone's radar.
Absolutely.
And so we're going to be looking at an Associated Press article that covers this premiere and all the controversy swirling around it.
Sounds fascinating.
So the Rust premiere is happening at the Camerimage Film Festival in Poland.
A prestigious event dedicated to cinematography.
Yeah, but there's a twist. Halyna Hutchins' mother, Olga Solovey, is boycotting it.
Wow, what a powerful statement.
I know. What does that tell us about the raw emotions still surrounding this tragedy?
Well, I think it speaks volumes. This boycott highlights the deeply personal nature of this case. This isn't just about legal proceedings, it's about grief, accountability, and a mother's search for justice for her daughter.
Absolutely, and it brings up the question of how this might impact public perception of the film and everyone involved.
It definitely adds a layer of complexity to an already complex situation.
And speaking of adding layers,
Yeah.
Solovey isn't just boycotting the premiere,
Right.
she's actively protesting it.
Through a statement issued by her lawyer.
Exactly, and that statement is pretty powerful.
It is.
She accuses Alec Baldwin of profiting from her daughter's death and refusing to take responsibility.
This adds a whole other dimension to the case, doesn't it? It's not just about the legal aspects anymore. It's about personal accusations, grief, and conflicting narratives.
It's heartbreaking,
Yeah.
and it really injects a layer of personal conflict into this whole situation.
Definitely.
So the article reminds us that Alec Baldwin maintains he didn't pull the trigger of the gun that killed Hutchins. How does his ongoing assertion factor into all of this, both legally and ethically?
Well, legally, it plays a crucial role in the ongoing civil lawsuits, including the one filed by Solovey.
Mm.
Ethically, it raises questions about culpability and responsibility, even when intent might be absent.
So we have these parallel tracks, the legal
Right.
battle and the court of public opinion.
Right.
Does Baldwin's insistence sway public opinion at all, or is Solovey's perspective resonating more strongly? What are your thoughts?
I think it's hard to say for certain. Public opinion is a fickle thing. But I do think that Solovey's voice as a grieving mother carries a certain weight that's difficult to ignore.
It's a tragedy all around. Now, the article also provides some legal updates for us.
Uh-huh.
It reminds us that involuntary manslaughter charges against Baldwin were dismissed,
Yes.
but he still faces those civil lawsuits. The film's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, however, received an 18-month sentence for involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah.
Can you explain the difference in these outcomes?
Sure. In the U.S. legal system, criminal charges and civil lawsuits are separate processes. Criminal charges are brought by the state, seeking to punish for a crime. In Baldwin's case, they failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he was criminally responsible for Hutchins' death, hence the dismissal.
So that's why that case is closed, at least for now.
Exactly.
But what about Gutierrez-Reed? Why the sentence for her when Baldwin wasn't charged?
Well, Gutierrez-Reed's role was different. She was the armorer, the person responsible for firearm safety on set. The prosecution successfully argued her negligence directly contributed to Hutchins' death. That 18-month sentence reflects that.
Okay, that makes sense. So criminal charges address violating the law, and civil suits focus on the harm done to an individual.
Exactly.
Both avenues are at play here, really highlighting the complexity of this whole situation. And let's not forget the court of public opinion.
Right. Public perception can definitely shape the narrative and impact everything from legal outcomes to career paths. In this case, both Baldwin and the filmmakers behind Rust are under intense scrutiny.
It's a lot to unpack, for sure. And hey, if you're finding this deep dive interesting so far, hit that like button and subscribe to Classic Courtroom for more courtroom conversations like this one. We break down all kinds of fascinating legal cases, and there's plenty more to explore with this one.
We try to keep it insightful and engaging, helping you understand not just what happened, but the why behind it all.
Now, this year's Camerimage Festival was already facing controversy even before Rust was set to premiere. Filmmaker Steve McQueen and Coralie Farjate withdrew their films in protest.
Really?
Yeah, they were protesting what they perceived as sexist remarks from the festival founder.
Wow.
So what did that tell us about the context in which Rust is premiering?
This pre-existing controversy definitely casts a shadow. It raises concerns about the festival's commitment to inclusivity and their ability to handle sensitive situations appropriately.
It's almost like a case within a case.
Mm.
We have the tragedy around the film itself and now this separate controversy around the festival where it's premiering. How do you think this might impact the reception of Rust?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but it could go either way. On one hand, the controversy surrounding the festival could overshadow the Rust premiere. People might be more focused on the festival's handling of the sexism allegations than on the film itself.
So the Rust premiere might get lost in the noise. Interesting. What's the other side of the coin?
On the other hand, it could also amplify the scrutiny on Rust. Some might see the decision to screen Rust amidst this controversy as tone-deaf.
Yeah, I can see that.
It could lead to even more criticism of the film and everyone involved.
So it's a double-edged sword. It could bury Rust or it could put it under a microscope.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. We're looking at a legal case, an ethical dilemma, and a cultural phenomenon all wrapped up in one. And moving forward, considering all of these layers is essential.
Well said. And for those of you who love untangling complex cases like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and become part of the classic courtroom community. We're all about diving into the legal and ethical aspects of these stories. We've got a lot more to uncover in this deep dive.
Stick with us as we explore the next layer of this intricate case. So we've been unpacking all the controversies surrounding this Rust premiere.
Yeah, the boycott from Halyna Hutchins' mother, the festival's own issues with sexism.
It's complicated to say the least.
It really is. And you've pointed out how these threads all connect.
Right.
But there's another layer to this whole thing.
Okay.
The festival organizers say the premiere is meant as a tribute
A tribute.
to Halyna Hutchins and her work.
That raises a really important question, doesn't it? Can a premiere, especially one with this much baggage, truly be a tribute?
I mean, can you separate the art from the tragedy?
Right. Can you honor her work without ignoring everything that happened?
It's a tough balance, isn't it? I mean, showcasing her work on this kind of platform could be seen as celebrating her talent and contribution to film. But then again, some people might see it as trying to capitalize on the tragedy.
Especially with the accusations from Hutchins' mother.
Yeah, it adds another layer of complexity to the whole situation. It's a delicate situation, for sure. You have all these conflicting emotions swirling around.
Right. For some, the premiere might feel like a step towards healing, a way to remember her.
Yeah.
But for others, it might feel disrespectful, a painful reminder of their loss.
And this brings us back to that central issue we keep coming back to.
What's that?
Accountability and justice. Baldwin might be in the clear criminally.
Yeah.
But those civil lawsuits,
Right.
they're still going.
They are.
And Gutierrez Reed.
The armorer.
Yeah, she was sentenced for her part in all of this.
Right. And those legal developments, they're still shaping the narrative around Rust. It's not just about the film's release anymore.
Exactly.
There are unresolved issues of responsibility and justice that still need attention.
It's like the legal stuff is running parallel to the premiere,
A parallel story.
adding another layer to this whole thing.
It reminds us this Rust case, it's about more than just a movie.
Right.
It's about the human cost of this tragedy, the complexities of grief, and the struggle for accountability in a system that sometimes fails to deliver it.
It's a really powerful point. This has been such an interesting discussion, and I'm sure everyone watching is finding it as thought-provoking as we are.
I hope so.
If you're enjoying this deep dive into the Rust premiere and all its complexities, hit that like button and subscribe to Classic Courtroom for more courtroom conversations.
We love exploring the legal and ethical sides of these stories, and we believe these conversations are crucial for understanding the world we live in.
Now let's zoom in a little on the festival itself.
Okay.
We talked about those filmmakers, Steve McQueen and Coralie Farjate, pulling their films from Camerimage.
Right.
In protest of those remarks from the festival founder,
no.
how do you see that protest? What kind of impact could it have on the festival's reputation?
I think their decision to pull their films sends a strong message. It suggests a lack of trust in the festival's leadership and a lack of confidence in their commitment to dealing with sexism in the industry.
So this goes beyond just disagreeing with what the founder said.
Absolutely. It points to a larger issue of gender inequality within the film world.
So Camerimage is almost like a battleground in this bigger fight for equality.
In a way, yes. By withdrawing their films, they're essentially saying they refuse to participate in a system that perpetuates these harmful attitudes. It's a powerful statement that's definitely resonating throughout the industry.
It's a bold move, and it puts Camerimage in a difficult position. How do you think they'll react to this, and how might that affect how Rust is received?
Their response to this controversy is key. Will they acknowledge the concerns raised by McQueen and Fargate and take real steps to address them? Or will they try to downplay the whole thing? Their actions or inactions will speak volumes to the film community and the public.
It's a defining moment for them.
It is.
They can either be part of the solution, show a real commitment to creating a more inclusive and equitable environment, or they can risk pushing away filmmakers and audiences who want to see change.
Exactly.
And the path they choose will definitely have an impact on how Rust is seen. If the festival seems insensitive to those concerns about sexism and discrimination, it'll be hard for people to see the premiere in a positive light.
Right. The film could get caught up in the festival's negative image no matter how good it might be.
So the stakes are high for both the festival and the film.
Very high. It's a reminder that the context surrounding a film's release can be just as important as the film itself. Art doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's shaped by social, cultural, and political forces.
And in this case, those forces are swirling around Rust in a big way.
Definitely. As we head into the last part of this deep dive, think about those external factors and how they might affect your own view of Rust and everything that's happened.
We've been looking at this Rust premiere from every angle, the tragedy, the legal battles, the festival controversy. It's clear this story has a lot of layers.
It's a situation where understanding the context is just as important as the content itself. This premiere was intended as a tribute to Halyna Hutchins,
Right.
but it's inevitably tangled up with all these external forces. It makes you think about how we even view art created under these kinds of circumstances.
It's a great point. We've talked about the boycott from Hutchins' mother, the lawsuits that are still ongoing, and even the festival's own issues with these accusations of sexism. All these pieces add up to a very complex and nuanced story that's far from over.
And it's a story that asks us to really think about art and accountability. Can we appreciate a film's artistic merit while acknowledging the tragedy surrounding it?
Right. Can you separate the two?
Exactly. And can we honor Halyna Hutchins' legacy without ignoring those unresolved questions of responsibility and justice?
It's a lot to consider. And in the end, it's a question each viewer will have to wrestle with on their own. There aren't easy answers here. And the Rust premiere just highlights how art often reflects those messy complexities of being human, the beauty and the pain.
It's a real-life case study in the power of context.
Yeah.
And it emphasizes the responsibility we all have as viewers to engage in these difficult conversations. We can't just sweep the backstory under the rug or pretend the tragedy didn't happen. We need to be mindful of the human cost, the ethical questions, and the pursuit of justice.
Couldn't agree more. And for those of you joining us here on Classic Courtroom, we hope this deep dive into the Rust premiere has given you some food for thought. If you're enjoying Courtroom Conversations, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more discussions exploring the legal and ethical sides of these captivating stories.
We love making these complex issues accessible and engaging. We believe that understanding these legal and ethical landscapes is key to navigating the world around us.
Absolutely. And as the story of Rust continues to develop, we'll be here on Classic Courtroom to break it all down for you. But before we go, we want to leave you with one final thought. How will you approach the film Rust, knowing everything we've discussed about its creation? What responsibility do we have as viewers to consider the human impact behind the art we consume?
These are questions worth thinking about, and we encourage you to keep the conversation going beyond this deep dive. Engage with the issues, challenge your own views, and be part of creating a dialogue that demands accountability, justice, and a more thoughtful approach to art and storytelling.
Thank you for joining us on Classic Courtroom. Until next time, stay curious and keep those legal minds sharp.